One of the most important relationships in your life is your relationship with yourself. And the fact that I couldn't remember the last time, if ever, that I had a moment with self.
Working on my energy, cleaning up, I'm taking care of myself and me. Drinking coffee, take a sip, they say I'm sparkling. Manifest that, write it down, you know it's happening.
What up, gang? So this is a super impromptu type of late night vent session. I wanted to film one yesterday, but I'm trying to work on like actually enjoying my Sundays. That kind of ties into whatever the title of this video will be. Anyway, on top of that, Bay and I have a date night tonight. So I will be doing like my makeup instead of my typical face mask type of vibe. So we'll just see how this goes. Like I said, didn't plan this out too thoroughly. As a lot of you guys know, that's something I'm actually trying to work on. Just like showing up, being present, not overthinking, documenting my life instead of creating it. Because I think that also is this part of the problem, or what was the problem. So go ahead and cheers, you guys, real quick. I just got a little bit of Arizona. We don't got no wine going on. Anyway, trying to figure out a balance between work and planning this wedding, because at this point your girl is about a month and a half away from being a married woman. Okay, woman. So that's interesting. I'm excited overall. It's just a lot still going on, like in terms of planning the bridal shower / engagement party. We're having that the end of this month. Then obviously the wedding as well. And then there's some like kind of last minute things that should not be last minute that I've been working on. So yeah, that's probably gonna go into my weekly vlog. How have you guys been liking that, by the way? I'm trying to have one go up this week. I'm trying to do weekly vlogs weekly, honestly. I've been kind of enjoying it, just not overthinking the process and just taking you guys along the journey. Again, documenting instead of creating. I was in this really weird headspace, and this kind of to me ties into a little bit of what I wanted to vent about in the first place. Like, I really found myself in a weird space the last, I don't know if I would even say a couple years, but for sure probably a year or so. I just had fallen out of love with my life, and it's kind of a weird statement to say because also there's a different level of awareness and consciousness that I gain as I get older, like every year. The way I think this year is not how I thought last year, or like the year before that. My mind is just continuing to expand the older I get. And I think along with that, I'm learning myself. That's something that I constantly try to repeat to myself, because there was a time where I felt like, oh, I need to find myself again. I think I've talked to you guys about that a little bit in other late night vent sessions and videos of mine, but I was stuck in this phase for a while of like, oh, I need to find myself. I need to get back to that old Isi. And it's kind of a toxic mentality to have, because at the end of the day, the past is the past. You can't go back, you can't rewind time. There's no do-overs with it. All you can do is focus on the present and the future. So I try not to say, oh, I need to get back to my old self. I'm creating my new self day by day. So yeah, y'all, it's been quite the journey. I mean, obviously I'm still on that journey, but I feel like I'm on the side of the journey now where I'm starting to see the light, okay? Because like last year, I would say last year was pretty dark. It was like a tunnel dark. And a lot of the times when I talk to you guys about kind of these different phases and stages I'm going through in my life, I talk about a big turning point for me being the room transformation that I did last year. Because even with that, and I think that ties into, trying to be more direct because I gotta know myself. I know that tied into why I fell out of love with my life, because not the room transformation was me starting to fall back in love, but prior to that, I was in this weird phase of definitely comparing all the fucking time. Looking at what other people are doing, just focused on other people's lanes instead of my own. And over time, since I started social media versus where it is now, I almost feel like social media has people in an aesthetic chokehold. At least I felt like I was in an aesthetic chokehold. Like, if it's not aesthetic, I shouldn't do it. And a lot of that came too from that like thing of I'm trying to create life instead of just documenting my life and take you guys along that process, even like the uglier sides of it or the non-aesthetic sides of it, right? Especially last year, I don't really pay too much attention this year to what people's like exterior settings or environment aesthetics are looking like, but last year was super present, the European aesthetic, so like nudes and just a lot of nudes, a lot of creams, a lot of that type of stuff, which is cool and is a vibe, and our living room kind of like touches in that realm of things. However, when I was walking into my studio / office, I wasn't feeling motivated like at all. I really hope my makeup's gonna come out good, because usually I'm like all up on the mirror and I'm doing it from a distance because I'm talking to you guys. My room and studio, when I was walking in it, and you guys again can watch the room transformation video if you haven't seen it. I'll link it in the description box because I go into more detail the why behind all of that. But that was me kind of taking one step into taking my power back and like living in my true authentic self and lane. And that also felt like that piece of me trying to fall back in love with my life, because that's how I kind of knew me going for that more aesthetic European whatever vibe that all these other influencers were going for was not true to me. I had to find that out for myself, amongst a lot of other things, like just the 20s in general. It's so interesting because I'm discovering something new about myself almost daily at this point, things that I like, things that I don't. And like also I think it also has to do with like being comfortable and confident in this is not me, this is me, like kind of drawing that line. I'm gonna get a little bit personal, up close and personal. I might have to use either the camera or the mirror is right above me, so I'll use that. But I oftentimes pinpoint the phase of me falling out of love with my life around the end of 2019 when I went to YouTube Black for the first time. And I'm pretty sure I did a few different videos I've talked about that, so I won't go into too much detail. But if I'm making a long story short, it was a time period where I just felt very uncomfortable with self. I allowed myself to feel very inferior to my peers that I was around, and who were there for the same reasons I was. Like, we all got invited for the same reason, in the sense where like we were some of the top performing Black YouTubers, so they brought us all together. During that time, I just allowed myself to feel very inferior, because it like oftentimes social media is a big kind of flex culture, right? So like, whereas I didn't grow up like that with name brands, or even like the schools that I went to, all private school, we had to wear uniform. Yeah, just very, very, very different from how I grew up and what my environments were. So YouTube Black was very much so a culture shock in a lot of ways. And after YouTube Black, I basically told myself like, oh, I never want to feel this way again. So basically I'm gonna make sure like I got my shit together, quote unquote. So think of like Keeping Up with the Joneses type of energy is what I started to carry after that. That was also a phase where at the time I wasn't aware, but now kind of fast forwarding to more recent times, I realized like I really haven't been in love with my life, because a lot of that mentality came from others, seeing what others were doing. And I think that's also why there was this phase of not being in love with my life, and now being on the opposite side of like knowing or finding out what works for me, what doesn't, what I like, what I don't like, what is true to me and what is not. Now I'm on that journey of figuring out how to fall in love with my life based off what EC feels, what I gravitate towards, if that makes sense, instead of, for example, seeing somebody else do, let's say I see somebody skydive. So putting you guys in the mind frame of like where I was back then. I would see somebody skydive, look like they had a freaking blast, and would be like, oh, maybe I need to skydive and I'll enjoy my life more, or, you know, I'll feel more fulfilled type stuff. And that's just not how things work. Me and Josh had a pretty deep talk earlier this year. He actually put me on to meditation. That's one of the things that I've been doing a lot more lately, meditation, and just stillness, just being still. Why did I need to take a deep breath for that? I don't know, but that's another thing though, taking deep breaths when I'm just feeling anxious a bit. But yeah, he taught me about meditation and stillness earlier this year when we were at Coachella. And the first time I attempted it, I got super emotional because he literally just went about it with saying, don't say anything, don't speak, even go as far as closing your eyes, and just listen to nature, listen to the environment around you. And when I did that, I got super emotional because I was trying to immediately, as I was starting to hear the wind and the birds and like, nature, I was like, trying to think back, when was the last time I remember being in touch with nature, being in touch with self like that. And I could not think of it. I could not date it back. And that made me very emotional. Like I started to cry because I'm like, wow, one of the most important relationships in your life is your relationship with yourself. And the fact that I couldn't remember the last time, if ever, that I had a moment with self, right? Like almost being bored. I kind of shape it in that way because we live in such a technology, entertainment driven culture now that oftentimes we there's this word that I read recently, overstimulated. We're overstimulated with social media. It's so easy. It's the tip of our fingers. We rarely take the time out to even be aware that we're always overstimulated. We always got our phones in our hands. We're always quote unquote entertained. I always like to use the example of like compared to how my mom grew up. Make sure these brows aren't too thick. But how my mom grew up, like let's say she was waiting on the bus, right? She didn't have a cell phone to be scrolling while the bus is coming. She had to sit there in her thoughts, figure out what she wanted her day to be, XYZ. The generation we live in, the culture and society we live in today, you will rarely see people off their phone. Like it's even hard sometimes to have conversations with people, like straight up one-on-one, eye contact, undivided attention conversations with people, especially in this generation, which is it's sad. That's probably gonna have to be a vent session in a whole nother way. But saying all that to say, going back to my moment of realizing like, all right, it's time for me to get more in touch with self. It was that moment, and that was in April of this year. I had my first run-in with like meditation and stillness, and it made me sad, but it also felt good. And it unlocked something in me. And that's why I'm saying the way I think this year, where my consciousness is this year, EC last year, or EC the year before that, and certainly not EC in 2019 was even tapped into that higher self. So, and that's kind of just where I'm at right now. Like, I feel like I'm learning to fall, and I don't know if I want to say back in love with my life. Not to say that, and the reason I'm hesitating with that, not to say I didn't love my life, so to speak, before this weird transition period, but more so the transition period, I feel like I was just so young. Being in your early 20s or kind of just leaving college, I still kind of felt childish, right? Whereas now I'm in my late 20s, your girl is about to be 20 freaking 8 next month, like in less than a month. Oh my God. Anyway, where I'm at now is so different than then. And I'm still up here. This is the only thing about talking to y'all and doing my makeup, because I just be taking so long on one step that I usually would fly through. But it's cool. We move. Where was I going with that? Dang, don't lose it, easy. Don't lose it. Talking about the level of consciousness, operating at a higher self. Where I'm at now is not how I was thinking back then. Yeah, XYZ. So, yeah, anyway, that Coachella moment happened where had the moment of stillness and quiet time, and then on top of that, during that week when we got back home, dove a little bit deeper on it. Like I asked him to like kind of teach me his ways. What else is he doing? Because again, he introduced me to something I wasn't even aware that I was lacking. I wasn't even aware it was a thing. So something else that he was telling me about was the dark house theory, or I think it might just be his theory, but I'm gonna call it the dark house theory. And basically the dark house theory is this man It's a metaphor. This man is looking for the key to his house outside of his house because all the lights in his house are turned off. One of his neighbors comes up to him like, hey, what are you doing? Dude's like, I'm trying to find my keys or whatever. And he's like, you don't think like your keys are inside your house? Why are you looking outside your house or whatever? So the context of that is basically, we try to find the answers to life. For my personal example, right, I was trying to figure out how can I feel fulfilled and satisfied and like be in love with my life. But I was looking for it in all the wrong places. I was looking for it outside my house. The house is you. You're your house. You're your temple, right? I was looking for it through social media, through other people's content. I used the skydiving example earlier because that was an example of like, I'm looking outside my house. Or I also like the metaphor of like puzzle pieces. When you're doing a puzzle, sometimes there are pieces that will fit somewhere that isn't even the right spot, and you won't know it until you get another piece, right? So I'm thinking so much while I'm trying to get this off to you guys at the same time. But basically, I was trying to fit other people's puzzle pieces into my life puzzle instead of trying to figure out my life puzzle on my own as I go. And a lot of that did just come from like scrolling. During this time, I was like clocking in high ass screen times. Y'all know how your iPhone will let you know weekly like how much time you spend on your phone and what apps you spent time in and shit like that. Like, it's honestly disturbing and very frustrating. And it's something you're not even aware of unless you start acknowledging it, to be honest. I'll be fully transparent, I'll be honest with you guys all the time. There was times where I was clocking in like 7 or 8 out. No, I don't think I ever touched 8, but for sure I clocked in 7, and it was average. Like, oh, you averaged 7 hours and something minutes this week. That average means per fucking day. And that is just ridiculous. Ridiculous to me. And also the type of person that I want to be and who I want to become, it's like that 7 hours I could be using to be so much more productive and beneficial with like my life. And again, it was getting me nowhere because I was looking for the keys to my house outside my house. Whereas when you start actually having time of stillness and thinking to yourself and just having conversations with yourself, that's when you start turning on those light switches. There's multiple rooms in the house. There's multiple layers to self, you know, who you are. But the only way to start discovering and figuring out and learning yourself is to have time with yourself. Isn't that wild? It's like, and it's said so simply now, but I really did not get it before. Like, it just didn't even occur to me that, because I think, you know, millennials, we live in a very funny generation because I remember a time where cell phones were barely a thing, right? Where we had like the little butterfly phones. You could only have like 3 contacts in it or whatever. And now technology has expanded to the point where like I can call my mom like right here, right now. Doesn't matter, across the world. She was in the DR. I was able to call her. It's wild what technology has become and what it is still becoming. And to be honest, let me see how much time I have. Do we have time to even get into that conversation? Okay, we got a little time. To be honest, I view, I don't know how many of you guys are up to date and aware. I gotta get a little close. Let me see how these brows is looking. Not too bad. I view, well, how many of you guys, the question is, how many of you guys have heard about like the metaverse, right? The metaverse is coming, as people say, but to be honest, if you really think about it, we're already in it. The metaverse is your phone, literally. And it was interesting. I've been just into reading a lot more, getting into the Bible a lot more, watching like kind of different podcasts and what would you call it? Just interviews and stuff more. And I don't remember where I had read it or heard it or saw it, but basically the guy was saying like, the day and age that we live in, people's identity, like think about the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning. I'm pretty sure half of you guys myself, I'm guilty of it. I was guilty of it. I had to make the conscious decision and be aware of it. But the first thing I used to do, muscle memory, when I woke up, was grab my phone. That is something, as I'm learning to fall in love with my life. We're not saying back, fall in love with my life, is I don't touch the phone first thing in the morning anymore. I can go some hours actually without touching my phone. I actually, first thing I do, pray. Then I've started to do, and honestly too, I'm wondering, should I tell you guys everything I'm doing, or should I do a separate video, like a routine? If I tell you guys verbally right now what I'm doing, things I'm starting to do to fall in love with my life, will y'all still F with a routine of like actually seeing me do the stuff? Comment below, let me know. But I'll tease the little things here and there. Just my morning in particular. So wake up, pray, then I go to do my daily devotional. Excuse me. No, sorry. Pause, rewind. Wake up, pray. Then I go do my 15 minutes of stillness, actually. Why do I have this back in my hand? What was I gonna do with it? I do my 15 minutes of stillness on my balcony. Sometimes I'll close my eyes. Sometimes I'll keep my eyes open, but just be silent and listen to the environment and stuff. Because it's also a way to like refocus and center yourself. If the first thing you do is grab your phone, it's like you're signing, okay, because I didn't finish my previous statement, my bad. The thing that I recently heard or saw, whatever, the guy was saying, people's identities are literally tied to digital. The first thing people do in the morning, the reason they grab their phone is because it's like almost to check, am I still here? Am I still, present, so to speak? How's my Instagram? How's my Twitter? What's my Facebook looking like? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People check in to make sure they're still here in the digital sense. And it's really wild and pretty deep when you think about it. Me and Josh have been having a decent amount of conversations about this on our Patreon. I'll link that in the description box below for those of you guys that don't know about our Patreon. We're doing a wedding series over there. We do wake and bakes over there, quality conversations over there. We just lit over there. Anyway, yeah, so I was saying all that to say, for a while now, actually, I would say it's for sure since April, don't touch my phone first thing when I get up. Do the 15 minutes of stillness, and then I do my daily devotional. And then as of recently, because every time I do a daily devotional, it comes with some type of it references a biblical verse. I have been going to that biblical verse in the Bible that Josh bought me this year, and like might read the chapter or whatever, just digging deep into self, digging deep into my spiritual relationship with God, and just trying to be way more intentional with my actual physical life, not my digital life, which is why I think I've been really inconsistent as well on here. I used to be super on it with the videos, and although I do plan to try to work my way back to that point, life be lifing, and it's important for me to go with the flow of where my life is at instead of forcing it, which is why I also said in the beginning, I like that I'm taking you guys along the ride with me in terms of weekly vlogs, because I can take you guys through that process of me documenting how I'm getting from X to Z, A to Z, as in not in love with my life, becoming in love with my life. Not a married woman yet, becoming a married woman yet. Just different stuff like that. But yeah, I really challenge you guys, if you find any relatability with this video whatsoever, and some of the things that I'm saying is like, oh shit, I do that. Try out some stillness time for yourself, having conversations with yourself, asking yourself why. Because there was a lot of things that again, like I said, wasn't in love with my life, and I was sad about, disappointed about, and I never even thought to ask myself just why. You see, why? I'm a question asker all the time, with my family, my friends, strangers. I just ask hella questions, but I don't ask myself questions. Why? Just why? And I love what Josh always says about when you want to find something out, in general, whether it be you're talking to somebody or talking to yourself, ask yourself why 5 times. So I'm unhappy with my life. Why? Let me see if I could just spitball something. I don't feel like I know myself. Why? Because I find myself scrolling on social media being sad to see how other people are living. Why? You feel okay? You guys get what I'm saying? Like, you will eventually find the answer why, and once you find the why, you can flip on that light switch in your dark house. Isn't that wild? Like, it's literally just about figuring yourself out, learning yourself. And it was kind of funny because something I like learned about myself this year, which is a really good, like, trying to pay attention to the time, which is a really good example of exactly what I'm saying. I have to make sure. Okay, I had a weird notification. Coachella. Coachella was something that I always thought, I know my lip liner on. Coachella was something that I always wanted to do since almost becoming an influencer. More so because, well, one, I like music. There's no doubt about that. But two, I would see my peers would go and their trip would be sponsored by a brand, and it would seem like they had a hell of a time. Great ass time. That wasn't really my experience with Coachella this year. There was a lot of reasons and tidbits as to why, but it was one of those things after I got back from Coachella that I had to learn about self or acknowledge about self. I'm a very soft life person. So even something as simple as like Coachella, at least to get from the entrance of Coachella to the actual park where the concerts are going on, it's a biblical walk. It is about a 2-mile walk on gravel. I kid you not. That was not something that I liked or appreciated whatsoever. That wasn't something I was excited about or like even okay with, to be honest with you. So that's one of those things where like having to know self, I probably won't be going back to Coachella unless it's a complete kind of like VIP experience, a brand. It's like, I don't know. That's just one example. What else was I gonna say? Got about 6 minutes left. I'm determined to make sure I get this video to you guys and get to my date on time. But yeah, these are just, I'm kind of just spitballing some things. Oh, where is mine? It's not in here. I wanted to use a like fluorescent type of highlight. I'm gonna just use this gold one that I have. It makes my little nose sparkle. But yeah, you guys, I feel like, I know I'm kind of jumping everywhere. Usually with late night vent sessions, I try not to, again, be too strategic about them. I just like talking to you guys like y'all are my girlfriends and y'all are here in the moment with me because y'all are. But yeah, I feel like I've been doing a disservice to myself as well as you guys, to be honest, to an extent, for just not, I don't want to say it's a matter of me not being authentically me. My personality 1000% is authentic, but the way I was going about the type of content that I felt I needed to make, or, you know, stuff like that, it just did not feel true and authentic to me. Like I said, also with the YouTube Black stuff, a lot of it was the flex culture type of thing, which caused me to feel like, oh, I got to keep up with the Joneses, and I got no fulfillment out of that whatsoever. And it was interesting. I'll let you guys in on a little something, but if you want to hear about the rest, you have to go to our Patreon, because me and Josh have been doing premarital counseling sessions with his dad, and we share what each session is about and what we learned, and et cetera, on our Patreon. But anyway, more recently, one of the questions his dad posed to both of us in the session that we had was, basically, if Jesus was to come back, what is something you would want him to forgive you for? Something to that effect. And my answer was for him to forgive me for losing sight of my purpose. Because I started social media with a purpose. Like, for a lot of you guys, you OGs who've been rocking with me since I pretty much started in 2016, y'all know like my intentions behind starting this channel and stuff, it wasn't even for it to be what it is. The fact that we are pushing almost 1 million is that's a whole nother thing. I love y'all, by the way. But yeah, I started it because I for myself personally, was in a really low self-esteem, low confidence type of place. This was again 2016, like my junior year of college, and I didn't feel like I fit into what the idealistic standard of a woman was, especially on social media, right? So with that, I was like, well, I feel like I can't be the only girl that feels like because I never did the beat face type of thing. Matter of fact, I really started wearing makeup when I started YouTube in 2016. So this is still like, I wouldn't say it's super new to me, but you know, anyway. On top of like being an athlete all my life, and going to private school all my life, I didn't ever have to go through like that flashy shit. And on top of that, again, I never had like the Coke bottle figure, big tatas and stuff like that. So, and that is usually what the idealistic woman is. We all know that's not true, right? Y'all know that's not true, but you know, I'm trying to take y'all back, trying to take y'all to where my mentality was prior to understanding this. But there was some sense of understanding me where I was like, I can't be the only girl out here that feels this way, like she doesn't fit in, or my beauty isn't good enough for the society type thing. On top of that, I also noticed there was a heavy lack of representation for chocolate black girls, type 4 hair, etc., etc. That was also a problem to me. So those two things, that's just like a little tidbit, but those two things were like my purpose. Like, nah, let's get some representation out there. Nah, let's create a community and like a safe space for women that don't look like Instagram baddies. Like, we're just regular, beautiful ass women. You feel me? And it was almost, when I think about it, kind of a fake it till I make it type of thing, because again, like I said, I didn't have the highest self-esteem or confidence back then, but my mom always instilled in me, like, you know, you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And basically, I just wanted to create a space where it was women, like-minded women like me, who were struggling to love on themselves in a society that didn't love them back or show them love in the first place. And this community was going to be that, or I hope you guys still feel like it is that. But again, tying it back to the premarital counseling session we recently had, and me saying like, I hope that God and, you know, Jesus can forgive me for that, because when I went through that phase with the YouTube black and all of that stuff, I lost sight of my purpose. I lost sight of my vision because it was too focused on like trying to fit in, trying to keep up, etc. And all of that, it was materialism, and it was just nothing that satisfied me. And again, this is why I'm saying I fell out of love with my life during that phase, because it wasn't something that made me feel like good inside or fulfilled. I feel fulfilled when I feel like I'm positively impacting and changing people's lives, which is why I actually enjoy and like that you guys have been enjoying and liking my late night vent sessions, because it doesn't get much rawer than this. Like, I come in here straight, raw, honest, transparent. If I cry, I cry. If I laugh and cry at the same time, like I think in the more recent one, I had this mask on, and when I cried, I looked like a damn clown, literally. So that is true to me though, and what I have to say, I feel like is important, and I feel like it's relatable, and I think it's just necessary to have a platform where people can see themselves in me or my situations and understand they're not alone if they're feeling, there's the timer, if they're feeling the same way. So yeah, y'all, no, I kind of said a mouthful there with things, but ultimately, bottom line conclusion is, your girl is learning how to fall in love with her life. And I wouldn't even say, like, again, like I said, I'm starting to see the light. I don't even feel like I'm fully there yet, but I'm excited to take you guys through that process and that journey with me as I'm figuring that out. Also about to become a married woman. So there's a lot of changes and stuff that's happening in my life right now. This is a different color. Do I wanna, nah. I'll do it right there. Do it clear though. I lost where I was at with it, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am done. Oh, nope, got one more thing to add actually. But yeah, I'm excited for this new phase. Even in my more recent weekly blog, I was telling you guys about wanting to start remodeling different rooms in our house, starting with that guest washroom. I'm gonna turn it into my own little sanctuary, which I'm very excited about. That's a form of me falling in love with my life though. Like, I've always liked interior design. I think I told you guys about a while ago, like I was really into Sims when I was like addicted to Sims when I was younger. And a lot of the time when I was playing Sims, I spent most times creating houses from scratch and then decorating the house. And then I would play with the characters about 30% of the time. But 70% of the time I was building, I was doing interior decorating, etc., etc. And like, that is true to me. So I'm going back. And I wish to Cali, I wish I remember the song. But I'm excited to discover this newer version of self. Can't forget the fake moles. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm feeling good. I am feeling myself change and evolve in a good way for the better. And again, I do feel myself falling in love with my life again and learning different things about myself that's necessary to get to the point that I want to get to. So yeah, you guys, that is all I have for y'all. I love you guys very much. If you have any relatability to this conversation or want to share, please don't hesitate. I love when we have an open dialogue going on in the comment section below. Please understand too, just because I don't respond doesn't mean I don't see it. It's also like very difficult for me sometimes to feel like I can acknowledge one comment and not acknowledge another. Like, and I love that you guys acknowledge each other's comments, because we do have a community here, and it's not just me. I'm one member of Beauty Gang. We are all Beauty Gang. So I love to see the dynamics and the conversations that go on in the comment section. Just want you guys to know, I see you guys. I love you guys' input. I love you guys' stories that you share, your triumphs, your failures, your wins, your losses, all of it. That is what this was for. That was the purpose of this platform for me personally. This is what I wanted. So yeah, y'all, I love y'all. I can keep going, but I know I need to stop. So I will see you guys soon. Please make sure your post notifications are turned on and up. And yeah, until next time, Beauty Gang. Bye. Working on my